My name is Brydie Ockwell. This place is really special to me. I've been coming here a long time. As long as I can remember, there's been Aoraki with the mountains, the lakes, and the glaciers.
Brydie's journey follows the Waitaki River into Aoraki National Park, to the source of both the river and Brydie's fascination with geography, Tasman Glacier.
I first came up here as a toddler, don't even remember it. Came up here for family holidays every summer, and then studied them in my first year at uni, my second year at uni, now in my final year at uni. I'm still studying these glaciers and still learning so much about them. They're incredible.
But soon her studies will take her to Sweden for over a year. So Brydie makes this final trip to say farewell.
Lake Pukaki was a terminal lake. It's not anymore, but it's been carved out and then filled in with water when the glacier melted.
But the glacier leaves more than just water in the lake bed. In its clutches, this water holds the tiniest yet most abundant evidence of the glacier's presence: glacial flour.
That is rocks that are picked up by the bottom of the glacier as it's dragging across the ground, and then they're trapped inside the glacier and underneath the glacier, and they're ground down until they just turn into a fine dust, almost like coffee grounds or like a flour, hence the name glacial flour. These particles of glacial flour are so fine and so small that they're really easily picked up by a river like the Tasman River, or even a body of water that's not moving at all, like Lake Pukaki. They're pale in colour, which is why they give the lake its beautiful bright blue colour.
Thanks to her geography textbooks, every step Brydie takes treads familiar, every landmark illustrating a chapter of the Tasman Glacier's enduring story. And so, with Lake Pukaki behind her, Brydie meanders onto the Outwash Plains. Not yet to the glacier, but getting close.
As the glacier is receding and retreating up the valley, it's exposing the really steep hillsides that were held up by ice, and a lot of that sediment will fall down into the valley. All of that makes them really flat.
Most of the glacial flour deposits on the Outwash Plain, but any that doesn't flows into Lake Pukaki.
Rivers are moving slowly on the Outwash Plain. They come together and they grow apart and make their way really slowly across the Outwash Plains into the lake.
Just as the river braids through the plains, this pilgrimage weaves Brydie's path with the Tasmans once more. The Girl and the Glacier reacquainting as old friends. As if no time had passed at all.
You can't help but notice the changes in vegetation as you move from the Outwash Plains into the mountains. The first plants that can grow in that environment after the glaciers retreated are tiny little lichens that just cling to the edge of a rock, eking out their existence. But over time, small grasses are able to grow. After that, shrubs, then finally, trees.
The pattern of plants reveals the glacier's nature of change. Freeze and melt, advance and retreat, growth and decline.
They're disappearing at a really scary rate. It's not all doom and gloom. They're going to be here when I get back. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, they'll have changed. Who knows what'll happen?
This landscape shows off glacial scars and geographic tattoos that it's had for millennia. To see what the glacier itself looked like even 100 years ago, Brydie must visit the past. But now it's time. Each step brings Brydie closer to the glacier and closer to goodbye.
This is going to be my last chance to see them before I head overseas on exchange for a year. I'm super excited, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to miss this place.
Even New Zealand's smallest bird, the rifleman, tweets a bittersweet bon voyage.
I know they're really curious, so I sat down, went, how do we talk to them? And they came on over. The Tasman Glacier is just up the valley here, nestled against the side of Araki Mount Cook, which is the spine of the Southern Alps.
These giants watched Brydie grow, from a little girl in snow boots to a young woman now studying geography and climate.
I do quite a bit of work and research at the moment. At the top of the valley, where the glacier very suddenly goes from dirt on top to snow on top. That is the equilibrium line. Below that, it's losing mass, and above that, it's gaining mass. The equilibrium line is directly related to climate. So as the climate warms, the equilibrium line gets higher, and more of the glacier is being lost every summer.
As the ice shrinks into the heart of the mountains, ramparts of rock and sediment remain. These walls are called moraines.
Those that run along the sides of the glacier are called lateral moraines, and then at the bottom of the glacier is a terminal moraine, which is the end of the glacier. The Tasman hasn't actually always had this lake here. It started forming in the 70s with just a couple of tiny little ponds. By the 80s, quite a large lake had formed here. As the glacier continues to melt and that equilibrium line continues to get higher, the lake's only going to get longer. I spend most of my time when I'm studying head deep in books. To see the equilibrium line and to know what it means, to look at the moraines and know what they're telling me about the history of that glacier and that valley is really cool to see that all in the flesh.
Both the Tasman Glacier and her impending farewell fill Brydie's horizon.
I didn't really know what I would feel seeing the glacier, knowing that I won't be able to see it for so long. And I actually got kind of upset thinking about it. It was really, really nice to see the glacier, but you know, all of my studies are leading towards me hopefully being able to protect these glaciers. I don't know what it's going to look like when I get back, but I do know that it's going to be different because that's the world that we live in. The glacier, which has left such a mark on me at so many points in my life, kind of just seemed right to leave my mark on it, near it, on it.